Alright, welcome back to Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode number 38. This is going to be the first of 4 straight episodes discussing stories from the Jon Pertwee run. Yeah. Actually, basically 4 in a row. But basically, I do have 4 more episodes coming after this one, hopefully. But 4 out of I'd say 3 out of the next 4 episodes are definitely Jon Pertwee stuff. And the next one is going to be started by a doctor I've never talked about the channel before. Never. Actually, I have occasionally, but I've never talked about the stories in this era. Alright. First up, what we have here is the second story from Jon Pertwee's second year on the show. Actually, is from his 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. This is actually from his... Yeah, it's from his 3rd year on the show. This actually comes right after the 3 Doctors. That's basically where this one comes out afterwards. Now, released in if I can find it, basically a thing here. I think it's 1972 this was released. This is basically 4 parts over the course of basically just, probably a month. Now, there is some interesting fun facts with the story. King Peladon himself is actually played by, get this, the son of Patrick Troughton. No joke. That is Patrick Troughton's, one of his kids anyways. Because here's the strange thing. His other son actually appeared on Doctor Who in an episode of Matt Smith's run. Yeah, so both of Patrick Troughton's sons have appeared in the show. Now, Troughton himself did mention, I did see one interview with him where he did bring up the fact that he did appear on the show. Yes. Now this one's called The Curse of Peladon. Yes. Now Peladon itself is named a planet. Yes. It's named a planet that they go to. Yes. His name is David Troughton. That's the name of the actor. Patrick, like I said, is his father. His brother is Michael Troughton, who did appear in Doctor Who in, get this, he appeared in the episode Last Christmas as Professor Albert in 2014. Yes, 2014, right where the guy is still very much alive. So at the time when this aired, he must have been almost 20 when this thing aired. And in the case of David Troughton, he was probably about 22 when this aired. Yeah, he was pretty young. And if you're curious, is he still alive? Oh, heck yes. And you might be asking, has he ever appeared in any other stories of Doctor Who? Well, he did appear in Enemy of the World as an extra, a soldier in War Games. Appeared in this story. And, that's it. That was his last one. Well, let's see. He did return for the episode Midnight. Yeah, an episode from the final season of David Tennant's run. Yep, he did return for that one. Yep. Now, this one also has debut of Alpha Centauri. Yep, their first of 3 appearances that this character has made over the years. Does return for the following story, which I will discuss in a later video. It'll be the last one discussed in a row. Jon Pertwee stories, which is the Monster Peladon, was a sequel to this one. And she also, actually appeared in Empress of Mars 5 years ago. Yeah, and that was actually first appearance since the classic Doctor Who days. This story also has the 3rd ever story that featured the Ice Warriors. But get this, the subject this is technically an Ice Warrior story. They're not the main bad guys of the story. Nope. It's some original alien, and apparently the Paladins are basically like humans. Yeah, it's kind of weird how they explain it. Now, the story itself is actually pretty good. The whole thing is about basically admitting Peladon, the planet, into the Galactic Federation. Now, here's the weird thing about the Galactic Federation. Aside from this story, here's the thing. This Federation is only brought up just in this story, the following, the sequel to this one, and Empress of Mars. Because a lot of the time when they feature Earth in the future, usually they refer to Earth as an empire, like the bountiful empire for Earth. Like, basically, it's a conquering world, which is kind of odd. It's very inconsistent, basically, how they do the future. Okay? Now, in the case of basically, like, editing the cover, yes, it's kind of this happened in the story, where King Paladin himself falls madly in love with Joe Grant. Now, there's no denying, Kate Manning at the time, basically, look at this, she looked like she was a very beautiful woman, and she doesn't look that bad for her age currently. I gotta admit that. Now, here's a strange fun fact about her. Did you know she's actually the only one of the 3 companions, well, considered to be companions of John Pertwee, still alive? And you're thinking, really? Yes, really. She's the only one still alive. Because Elizabeth Sladen passed away a decade ago. I think the actress who played Elizabeth Shaw passed away before that. Let's see. Liz Shaw, Catherine Joan. Yeah, she passed away 10 years ago this year. Yep, she passed away. Let's see. Elizabeth Sladen. It was actually 11 years ago. Yep. Yeah, she actually passed away at the same time. Like, let's see, it was April 2011. Nicholas Courtney passed away just a couple months prior to that, both in the same year, which is surprising to say the least. Yeah, but it is interesting that it's like that. Now, the Ice Warriors in this story here are depicted as simply very peaceful, and they use violence, but only in self-defense. Now, when the Doctor and Joe arrived at this planet, they basically were, Joe was going to go on a date with Mike Yates, and doctors whisked her away to possibly another world, and they ended up on Peladon. Now, why the heck Peladon? It's actually revealed in the story that the Time Lord is responsible for bringing him here. Yeah, that was simply the reason for it. And you're thinking, really? The Time Lords? Actually, no. It wasn't, the 3 Doctors last one. No. That's actually next particular year. This actually is just after Day of Daleks. So this is actually the second story. Yeah, it's definitely the second story of the 3rd season of John Pertwee's 3rd season. It was the second story of also the 9th season of the show. But it's not after 3 Doctors. It's actually Day of Dalek, which I have previously reviewed that. Like, I think it was just the previous episode, wasn't it? Actually, it was a couple episodes ago that I did review Day of the Daleks, and this is just kind of surprising. I review the next one. Now, the planet itself. Okay, yeah. Now, when they arrive here, they basically it's kind of a storm. And by the way, this is sort of in a way a bottle episode, kind of. Let me explain about the whole concept of bottle episode. It's mostly put basically be inside of one location the whole time. Star Trek did this also in the 60s. They had a few episodes like this as a cost-save measure because basically shoot locations are expensive. So they decided to have the exterior just in the opening episode. We did see a little bit of the exterior a little bit afterwards, where it's a big humongous castle. Now, as in the case of the planet's history, a little bit is revealed of it here, or apparently like about Agador, or there's a whole cult worshipping this damn thing, and I think, oh, it's the spirit of Agador, and basically the High Chancellor. Now, the Galactic Federation representatives are about to arrive. Now, they do reveal one of them is actually a traitor. Who it is? You might think, it's the Ice Warriors? No! It's actually some made-up alien who appears all in this damn story. It's got some sort of light support system. Yeah, it's a character by the name of Arcturus. Yeah, this guy. Who basically... The whole thing with this guy is that he's basically a head in a jar. No, I'm not kidding about that. That seriously is his damn deal with this guy. Yeah, he appears just in this story. And to my knowledge, he's never appeared on screen ever again. He just appears in this one story. And that's it. Yeah, that's kind of the strange thing about it. Yeah, one story, and he's done. He actually gets killed off at the start of the next story of the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, the whole thing is like, it's like, oh, admitted to Federation. Now, the story itself is very similar to something you would see in Star Trek. Have meeting representatives go to a planet, discuss basically possible minutes to the Galactic Federation. It's almost like this episode was written by a Star Trek writer, believe it or not. But the writer from, I don't know, let's see, the writer himself, his name is Brian Hayes. This is the guy who wrote the story. I don't think that this guy ever worked on Star Trek. Well, the guy himself is no longer alive per se, but I don't think he ever worked on Star Trek. No, it's like maybe he took some inspiration from Star Trek. It's possible that's the case. Yeah, in case you're curious though, this guy was also a regular Doctor Who writer. And this actually was the second to last story he ever did for Doctor Who. He did 6 stories. I've discussed 2 of them already. Ice Warriors and Seeds of Death. He also did The Toymaker, a story that's mostly lost, except for like one episode. And The Smugglers, 2 stories related to the first Doctor. Yep. Also 2 stories of the second, 2 stories of the third. And I guess he was done afterwards. Because basically he never did anything more with them. Maybe he had some issues with the BBC. I don't know. I don't even know about that. So basically the order was arrived is that I think that when Doctor first encounters the alien, the first one he sees is an Ice Warrior, which he hasn't seen him in like at this point probably in like a decade. Because Seeds of Death was released in 1969. That was like 3 years prior to this one. So, yeah, roughly 3 years. So, not that long period of time between. And of course, the Ice Warriors come back just 2 years later. Yeah, 2 years later they come back. And of course, Alpha Centauri obviously come back. Interesting character this one is, though. The thing is, the way this creature is written in the next appearance, this creature is more of is kind of written to be a sort of a sexist. Yes, seriously, I have no idea why. But Doctor gets along with this creature perfectly fine. So, the Ice Warrior is basically very audible in this story. Now, I should point out, though, the suits they probably use in this episode probably are from those 2 stories. So, they're probably like, hey, we have these suits just lying around this period of time. So, let's reuse them again because here's the strange thing. The first Ice Warrior you see, the one that's big bulky one, that was the one that first appeared in the Ice Warrior story. The guy with the cape is actually from Seeds of Death. That's mostly where that suit's from, with the cape. Yeah, that's where he's referred to as an Ice Lord, believe it or not. Yes, the species referred to as Ice Warriors. I've heard those creatures referred as Ice Lords. And it is quite interesting, though, when they make their return here, the Ice Warriors, when they appear in this story, like, when you look up basic Ice Warriors, I'm going to look at one right now, it's the bulky version. That's the one that people think of. The Ice Lords, as they're commonly called. So basically, these are your basically titles. You have Queen Empress, High Lord, Supreme Lord, Grand Marshal, Warlord, Sub-Commander, Marshal, Sashur, Zagoster, and Abbot. The Marshal is probably the one basically probably seeing this very story. Yes, I believe so. Mm-hmm. And it's weird, though, the fact that Doctor Who likes to go back to the bulky look of the characters. As his character himself, he only appears just in the story. Oh, he does return for the following one, yes. Actually, different Ice Warrior. So yeah. So you got various different plots. Like, the whole thing, the weird thing is you have the Chancellor getting killed by the spirit of Agnor, basically a creature who's basically Agnor himself. And they do explain the backstory of the damn thing. And when the Doctor shows up, they assume he's the Earth delegate. And he basically plays along with this. And Jo presented as a princess. Her title is Princess of TARDIS. That's not a joke. That seriously is. Some of the cliffhangers they have this one are quite interesting to say the least. Like, they have one where the Doctor's about to be killed by one of the delegates. They have part 3. Like, one accounts been Agnor, and one basically almost sentenced to death for daring trespass in the temple, which I should read lower there. There's a character named Grant, who is the King's Champion, and he's a mute. Yeah. Do not know the reason for this. Maybe he got his tongue removed. It just... is by far one of the strangest things related to this character. He's just basically a big, strong brute. They probably didn't have him speak, probably because the guy probably didn't know how to act on screen, so make him a frickin' mute. So, at first, he works with the High Priest, and he just turns against them. He's also he's a really good fighter, too. So, at one point, they have a tourist where he's basically threatened by Oa, since they're going missing, and then it's found in the Ice Warriors room for some reason, and of course Jo is accused, but they later conclude that it was actually a Hepesh, as the guy is called. The name itself sounds very Egyptian, Hepesh, or at least Hebrewish, I'm not really sure. So, and of course, he firmly believes that the Galactic Federation is going to turn the planet to ruin. And everyone's like, whoever told you that is a big fat lie, and it turned out it was actually a tourist, basically, because his people are old enemies of the Ice Warriors. Just to basically gain an edge. Yep, and of course, Hepesh is killed by the end of the story by Agnor himself, and of course, well, we got King Paul have official ceremony. Now, in the case of the Ice Warriors themselves, they don't really do a lot of anything in the story at all. They're just there. There's not much fighting per se, a lot of discussion. But they don't do much anything in the story. It's almost like basically the whole the whole thing of basically the self-defense thing. Well, does get the case. And they don't really kill anybody in the story. Not really, no. But I do gotta admit, the story itself does age pretty well. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with the story. It's a very self-contained story. Aside from a couple of different follow-ups, there's not really much a lot happening with this one. But I gotta admit, just a damn good story. Yep. I give this one a 9.5 out of 10. Just that damn good. Okay, so that's the next thing's going to be Comic Corners. And that's probably it for tonight, okay? Next video. Bye.